There we go. All right, let's get rocking and rolling. Welcome to the third installment of Life Talks, dedicated to our seniors as they're entering the next chapter of their lives, getting them all equipped and with all the good stuff to head into the next chapter, no matter what that chapter looks like. We have here today somebody I know quite well. I have him speak yearly to my classes. He comes in and gives a great talk, a former Bainbridge High School science teacher turned financial investor. I'm real excited to share him with y'all. He's got a lot of really great stuff to help you out, whether you're watching this live right now or later on YouTube. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to, like I said, a man I know quite well, Bim Prince. Thanks for being here, Bim, Dad, Prince.
And that's me, and I guess I share a screen now, huh?
There you go. Yep.
And let's share the screen here. All right, so we have a few people aboard here. I even recognize a couple of faces out here too. There's JW. I can't hear anybody. Is that supposed to be correct, Jared?
No, you can. How are you doing?
Oh, there it is. There it is. Good. Nice to see you guys. Glad we're getting you on the screen, at least out of quarantine here, huh?
Hey, this is close as we can get to each other right now, I guess. So
I guess so. So I get the pleasure of talking to Jared's classes every year about some topics. I know by the time we come around to senior in high school, we've had about 20 math classes and about 30 history classes and a whole bunch of English and whatever else classes, but don't very often have a chance to sit back and talk about something that I see as important for people. That is kind of managing their future and their financial futures and that sort of thing. I take a little bit different viewpoint of it, but by all means, feel free to stop me and throw some questions out there along the way, okay? There'll be some time for questions at the end also. Should be done in about a half an hour if you can bear with us. So wish us luck, huh? So that didn't move forward. Just a second here. There we go. Okay, so our talk today is called Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise. I'm a financial advisor. I work at the Ameriprise in Kingston. I have the greatest job in the world. Well, second greatest next to teaching. People come into my office regularly. They hand all their money over to me and they ask me to protect it, number one. They ask me to grow it, number two. And Jared asked me to come in. I've been around Jared for a while, since he was a little fella. And then when he was in high school and he was busy doing all those high school activities, some of them with his brother. And then we were with him when he left the land of Cougar land over there at Wazoo and became a Texas Ranger. And we watched him go on the road and eat burgers all over the place. And we were there for the first time he ever played in a Major League Baseball game. Whoops. We were also there, as you might well imagine, sorry, for the day he was married a couple years back over in Wenatchee. And we're there as he raises his family and occasionally includes us. So if you've hung around Jared at all, you know he has a favorite expression, and I could ask you what that was or put it up on the screen for you. Every day, an opportunity. I see some heads bobbing as if that's not the first time they've seen that. I agree with that completely, but I'll occasionally throw in a second thought also. And that second thought would be, is there value in being one step ahead? Not a mile ahead, but just a single step ahead of other people in other places and other times. And I will use a little analogy here. You're out hiking through the wilderness with your friends, you're having a great time, the sun's out, the birds are chirping, everybody's happy, and you turn around, you see one of these things behind you. Well, there are rules about bears. The rules are, if you're by yourself, you better be the fastest runner on the planet. If, however, you're with friends, you only have to be faster than the slowest runner in the field. Have a little bit better footwork. Hopefully you don't trip and fall, because one step ahead gets you into pretty good spot when bears are coming after you. So that's our one step ahead. If we look at that also, one step ahead means that you get to see where you're going and everybody else is left in a cloud of dust. One step ahead, well, one step behind means your view looks like this. Not so good. One step ahead means you get to see what's coming your direction and make some good decisions. That's much better than looking at somebody's rear end your whole lifetime. The other thing about being one step ahead is, even in dismal times when the weather's horrible and it's terrible out there, you might notice that there's only one horse on the track that looks like it just came out of the shower. Everybody else has to sit around and wait for you as you cross the finish line first, and they have to go clean themselves up. So again, I'd say one step ahead really reminds us that it's better out front than it is behind. So we're going to put a couple things together today. One of them is Jared Prince's Every Day an Opportunity, and one of those is Dad Prince's. Let's try and see if we can't stay one step ahead also. So as seniors in high school, this is a really, really important time in your life. I would argue it's one of the two most important times in your lifetime. We call those transitions. And to introduce why this is so important right now in your life is we'll introduce the 20-40-30 rule. I invented it, I haven't seen it anywhere. But what it says is you're probably going to spend about 20 years of your life learning. Now, you'll always be a lifetime learner, but the first 20 years of your life, you're spending a lot of time in classrooms. They're feeding a lot of materials into you. Hopefully, you've had an opportunity to share some of the character that you have inside of you, as well as just pick up some extra new knowledge. So you'll spend plus or minus about first 20 years of your life learning. The next 40 years, you'll be off in the working world somewhere, probably. And then the last 30 years are what I help people with, planning for their retired years. And the 20-40-30 rule, as we watch this kind of evolve here, between that first 20 years and that next 40 years of working, that's that transition zone that a lot of us are going through right now. And that's what makes this one so important. If you look back now, you've spent really the last 20 years with these kind of people. And they were the ones that helped guide you through your lives, and you spent a lot of time with them. However, as we leave this first 20 years, some of us head off to 2 or 3 or 4 plus more years of learning, while others of us may head directly into the 40 years of the working world. So we leave behind SpongeBob and the Beebs, and we head off in a new direction. I'd like you to think about somebody that maybe you don't know as well as somebody that's a little older. Maybe you've seen him on TV or on the movies. If you were lucky, perhaps you saw one of his best movies ever, which is called Forrest Gump. If you don't know the story, Forrest Gump was a kind of a crafty little guy who seemed to get in and out of trouble all the time. But the highlight of the movie, for me at least, was one day when he's sitting on a park bench waiting for a bus. And if you remember that, he said some words there to that woman next to him. In his lap there, he has a box of, interesting thing, has a box of chocolate in his lap. He started speaking with the woman who was next to him. And Forrest Gump said these immortal words. He said, "Mama always told me life is like a box of chocolates." You never know what you're gonna get. And that was kind of the big theme of the movie. They kept bringing that up over and over again. In my life, I've thought about that a lot. You never know what you're gonna get. And my question, is that true? You really not know what you're gonna get in life? Or is life more like a lump of clay? The amazing thing about being human is that every day we get up, we get out of bed, and we get to do whatever it is we want to do. We wake up one morning and we decide we're not exactly thrilled with the person I was yesterday or what I did yesterday. That's okay. Go ahead and change. Go ahead and fix it. Because we have the ability to take our lump of clay and create gorgeous things out of it, wonderful things. And as we shape and mold ourselves, the lump of clay that we're given here, as we change ourselves, there are continually forces on the outside that are working us over. And it might be friends. It might be friends that aren't really friends that call themselves friends, that are pushing on you and working on you and asking you to do things that you may or may not want to do. It might be a coach who says, you know, you're really not good enough to play on this team. It might be a teacher that says, yeah, another F on that math test again, huh? There are people all over the place that continue to, as we work to shape our lump of clay, they want to come in and step on us and smash us down. And if we're strong, we'll grab our lump of clay over the course of the next few weeks after we've been trampled on, and we'll create something even more wonderful. And then our friends or our sort of friends or our acquaintances or whatever, they'll step on us again. And if we have the resilience, once again, we'll come back again and try and build something spectacular with our lives. Unfortunately, those forces are still out there that smash us back down again. And you've probably seen it in your school career. People that get stepped on and stepped on over and over again, and they get tired of trying. And so what they do is they take their lump of clay and they roll it up into a pile of dog crap, and that's what they become. If you're able to surround yourself with wonderful people that can help to mold and shape your clay, you're a lucky person. Those people might be friends, might be teachers or coaches, they might be relatives, they might be church people. There's lots of forces out there that can help you to properly shape your lump of clay. And my suggestion today, particularly, that this is your time of transition. You're gonna walk away from high school pretty quick and go to a brand new world, whether that's a working world or whether that's a school world in a different place. This is your opportunity to ask yourself, do I really like who I am? Or would I like to do something a little different with what I have? So will life be MOS, more of the same? Or will you live to be a lump of clay and make some significant changes? So one of my favorite sayings, you've probably heard it before, is our little lumps of clay out there. If you do what you've always done, don't be surprised, you're going to get what you've always gotten. And so take this time right now. I do it with clients all the time. People that come into my office that say, I'd like to be retired in 10 years or 5 years and 3. And they say, what do I need to do? How do I change my lump of clay to get myself ready for the next chapter in my life? It's those transitional times that are really, really important. And you're staring at one right now. So I'm not done yet. Thoughts or questions or comments or anything? Okay, we'll move along because Jared comes from a long line of teachers in his family. Well, sort of long line. It's time for me to assign some homework today. And I truly want you to do this homework, not just think about it, because this is really, really important homework in your time of transition. I want you to close your eyes right now, and I want you to think of 2 or 3 or 5 people that you know that live the kind of life, the exact kind of life that you would like to live. So that's the neighbor Chris, or your Uncle Susan, or your Aunt Betty, or whoever that is. I want you to identify some people who live their lives is exactly how you would like to live. And that's really important, because living exactly as you want to live is the definition of what should be called a rich life. It's not just money. It's not just doing whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it. It's a quality of life. I call it a rich life. Does it involve a little bit of money? Yeah, probably. But it's not just about money. A rich life that's the goal you should be shooting for. And what I want you to do for this homework, I want you to call those rich people up. Call them on the phone. Set up an appointment to talk with them. Do you mind if I come see you next Thursday at 1? I want to talk to you for a few minutes. So you walk in and you say, hey, rich person, what steps did you take to create your rich life? Doesn't happen by accident. You create your life just like you shape your clay. Don't let others shape your clay unless you want them to help you. So we ask them, what steps did you take to create your rich life? And that's one of the very important steps. Then the really important step is that you shut up and listen to what they say. Maybe even take some notes. But you ask people who have done what you want to do, how do I get there? In my line of work, I see people that want to be financially rich. And what they do is they go down, hang out at the tavern, talk to some guy who's sitting on a stool at the bar at the tavern and say, hey, what do you think is the key to success? No. If every day is an opportunity, and if being one step ahead really matters, and if having a rich life is something that sounds attractive, doing what you want to do, you ask yourself, a rich life just about money? Is a rich life about quality of life? And as we go a little bit further on that, when we look and say, is a rich life, does that mean a career? For some people it does. Does a rich life mean you run out today and get a McJob? Is there a difference between a career and a McJob? Well, McJob is typically looked at as being something that's shorter term, that's a lower wage, that you do it, at the end of the day, you punch out, you walk away. A career is something that you develop some skills for, that you train for, that you look at a McJob and ask, what does a McJob give me? Paycheck, and that's about all that it gives you. Career, on the other hand, might give you paid vacations, might give you time off, might have health care attached to it, might have lots of things, bonuses, 401ks. Oh, here's a car. You can use this with your career. You have a company car. Oh, and a company credit card, even better. So there is a difference between a McJob and a career. But at the same time, I want to make sure that a McJob can become a career, or a McJob can really become a career also. You ask the question, how? Well, I would say that if you look at that McJob, wherever that is, at McDonald's or something, there's 15 people wandering around in there. 14 of them are wandering around going, yeah, so what? I'll get my check and I'll be gone. One of them might be saying, every day is an opportunity, and I want to get one step ahead of everybody else that's in here. And so after a month there, that one person who takes advantage of every day an opportunity and tries to get one step further ahead, in a month, they become the head fry cook. And 3 weeks after that, they're shift manager in the middle of the night. And 6 months after that, they're manager of a store. And 2 years down the road, they're managing 3 stores. Any situation can provide you the great opportunity if you take the opportunity and you see it as that, okay? So we're gonna get a little bit more specific now. People ask me, what's the secret of getting financially well off? Well, you've gone out and you've interviewed 2 or 3 or 5 people, right? And I'll take a bet with anybody out there. I'll bet them over and over and over again, when you ask them, what's the secret to becoming rich, essentially, to living a rich life, they're going to tell you 2 things. You got to go out and buy real estate. You go out and buy a house today, that house will go up and down in value over time. It'll drive you crazy. Sometimes it's worth a lot, sometimes. But people that end up with rich lives own real estate, period. Almost always. If they don't own real estate, the only other answer you're going to get out there when you say, how did you create richness in your life? They're going to say, well, we went out and bought stocks. Stocks will really drive you crazy. They're up and down all over the place. A month and a half ago, people had lost 35% of the value of their investments. If they had $100,000 with me, they might have been down, lost $35,000. So what happens? Goes up, it goes down. What people do is they panic at the bottom and they sell stuff. Actually, if you drove by the supermarket and it said, Central Market said, come shop today, everything in the store 35% off, we'd be turning in the parking lot to be packed. In my world, if the stock market drops 35%, people sell their stuff and they run away. So I've asked this over my 21-year career. I've asked this question the same time over and over again. I don't see people having rich lives because they had great stamp collections, or because they sold off their baseball cards, or because they're buying and selling bicycles, or what. They do it a couple of ways. I suggest we talk to people who are successful and see what that means. So thinking about this then, and putting it in a context of where you are today, if your goal is to every day is an opportunity and to stay one step ahead, what we need to tell you is you need to do this magic of buying real estate and buying stocks. Do it at 20 or 25 years old. Be one step ahead of everybody else. Don't wait till you're 50 or 55 years old. Now you're miles behind. You're going to be staring at the rear end of somebody on a horse for the rest of your life. There is no magic about people who end up in life with more assets. It comes through 2 things only. And if you can buy stuff cheap down here at the bottom of stocks, or you can buy a house really cheap, you should do it. So I'm going to make you a bet. Run out today. I want you to run out today, and I want you to buy a house for $250,000. Live in it for 40 years. That's all you have to do. Just live in it. You're going to pay rent somewhere anyway. But in 40 years, growing at 4%, most of you are 18 years old or thereabouts, 40 years puts you at 58 years old. You own a house worth $1.2 million. And I'll bet my bottom dollar, you want to take that bet with me, I'll bet you that turns out being true. And maybe you don't want to run out and buy a house right away, but if you began doing something even very modestly, putting 25 bucks a week away, you did that for 40 years, you never got a pay raise because remember, you have a McJob. And with a McJob, you never get any McRaises. So you're going to be working for 15 bucks an hour for the rest of your life. You put 25 bucks away, you have $250,000 by the time you're 58 years old. I've watched this happen hundreds of times in my office. People that do modest things, 25 or 50 or 100 bucks a month, end up with enormous amounts of money. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to get ahead of everybody else. They don't want to spend their lives looking at rear ends. So as we look on this wise advice that we're trying to pass along today, healthy, wealthy, and wise, there are very few secrets. There are no magic bullets that I know about. The only thing I know how to do is to remember that that the world gives you opportunities every day. And the world gives you opportunities to get one step ahead of somebody else, not miles ahead. But if you think about those things and you think of how marvelous it is to be human and how marvelous it is to be able to change who we are and how we think and what we feel about. And if you're trying to take advantage of situations and go get one step ahead, go find help from successful people. Talk to your coaches or teachers, friends and relatives, coworkers, but put yourself in a situation with people who know the path to a rich life, who have done it themselves and can help you find that path. Because there's no magic out here. There are a few very well scripted paths to get yourself down the road further. And Jared talks about, Mr. Prince, talks about one of them all the time. And I try and talk about the other one. We talk about people that are wise and have great things to think. So Einstein said only two things are infinite, the universe and human stupidity. And I really like this quote because one of the great things about being human is that there are so many stupid people running around all over the place that it's pretty easy for you with a little bit of effort to move yourself 1 or 2 or 3 steps ahead of other people. And I don't mean to be offensive with that comment, but there are a lot of people that don't think about tomorrow and about what that might mean. If you're one of those that says, I've got an opportunity today, let's look at it this way. What's been your opportunity? The coronavirus came along and smashed your clay, took away a lot of things that you've spent 18 years trying to build and shape and create. And right at the last minute, this darn virus comes along and smashes that thing. We've got a couple of opportunities. We can say, got to be an opportunity somewhere today. How can I move myself 1 step forward? Well, one of those ways is you might tune into some of these presentations that Mr. Prince has put together for you. I know who did a presentation yesterday, and I know it was Mr. Gelder the day before. So there are people that clearly can help you in understanding what the next steps are. But if we view this every day as an opportunity and we work to get 1 step ahead, and if our goal is to avoid doing bad things, it can get you a very long way. So with that, I'll kind of step back. Thank you for the opportunity to share a couple of thoughts. It sometimes this getting ahead takes a little bit of extra effort. You have to be willing to do the work that nobody else does, and then you get to reap the rewards. So I'm here for a great question or thought or comment if anybody wants to throw one out. Kind of quiet out there. It's your big chance.
What would you recommend for with Corona stuff, economic worries? Like, what would you suggest the approach be right now if you are tied into the stock market? What would you advise me right now?
What would I advise you right now? The world is sort of split right now. Some people in the world say, great, we're getting through this thing, everything will be fine. I look at the coronavirus right now and say, this is an opportunity for us to either make really, really bad mistakes or make really, really good ones. History would suggest that the stock market does not drop one time and then go roaring back up to set all new record highs. If we think back to the last stock market crash that we had was in 2008, the market dropped and it came roaring back up again. Not all the way, but then it dropped again and it came roaring back up. And every time it came roaring back, all 8 of those times, people said, oh, good, it's over with now. The market dropped 58%. You lost more than half of your money. So when Mr. Weibel comes in and he gives me $10,000 to invest, and a year later I come back and say, guess what, Mr. Weibel? There's $4,300 left. How do you like me so far? There are times when the sun shines and the birds chirp and everything's great. That's probably not one of those times right now. It's time for us to pull back a little bit, to physically distance ourselves from others, to distance our investments from risky things, to just take it a little bit easy. This too will pass. We'll be out of this thing someday and everybody will be smiling again. The way to make money in the investing world is to buy when markets are low. We're not there right now. And there's plenty of reasons between a trade war with China and protests in the streets, and 40% of our economy is shut down right now. You might just want to take a little bit easy right now. But that being said, we also said, how do you get one step ahead of everybody else? I don't care if it's 25 bucks a week or 25 bucks a month. If you can begin to pay yourself, put some money in your own account and say, I'm investing this for me. Do it now. Don't wait till you're 50. I've had a couple of people whose goal it was to have $10,000 and then $5,000, whatever that is, in investable money before they graduated from college. That's mowing lawns, it's babysitting, it's doing whatever. So there are ways that you can begin to chip away at that.
Mr. Prince, Mr. Weibel here.
Hi, Mr. Weibel. Sorry I lost that money for you.
I was coming to your house tonight to get it back, but so you talk about being 50 years old. So I'm almost 50 years old. What would you recommend for a person of my advanced age, getting closer to retirement than I am at the beginning of my career? What would you suggest at this point in my life during these turbulent times?
Great question. Here's what I would suggest, and it's an analogy I use a lot. When you headed off to college at the University of Washington, go Huskies, you walked onto the campus the first day and you said, where's the registrar's office? And you went to that office and you asked them for the big book that listed out all the classes that you could possibly take. Two things could have happened. You could have opened that book up and started through it and go, ooh, badminton, that sounds fun. And ceramics, that sounds great. And ooh, I'd love to take a golf course. You start writing down a bunch of courses and you take them. and you get great grades in all those courses because you loved them. And after 4 years, it's a $80,000 or $100,000 bill, and you have zero to show for it. If, however, you sit down with one of those things called a counselor, a planner, someone who can help you put together a plan because you had a destination in mind. I want to be a teacher and I want to do it in 4 years. That educational planner will tell you, okay, then Mr. Weibel, you need to take these 3 classes your fall quarter, and these 3 in the winter, and these 3 in the spring. And they're going to tell you exactly the courses you need to take for 4 years. And almost everybody is going to graduate in 4 years. Maybe it's 4 years and 1 extra quarter, or maybe if you're really good, it's 3 years and 2 quarters or 3 quarters. But if you follow a scripted plan, it's gonna work. In my line of work, I'm a financial planner. What I do is I build plans for people, and I've been watching them evolve and grow for 21 years. If you sit down and plan properly, those plans will come true almost always, or be within a couple percentage points of being true. So you plan well, and you live your life by the bumper sticker. That bumper sticker that says stuff happens, because occasionally it does. And right now, I'm sorry, at the moment of your transition, everybody out there, right in your transitional moment, one of 2 in your lifetime, you're getting whacked by a coronavirus. We got to find a way to get through this. And that means reach into your heart a little bit further and ask, what opportunities do I have today, and how can I be 1 step ahead of everybody else? So, Mr. Weibel, what I would say is find somebody to help you plan a little bit. Somebody that's been there before that does it regularly.
Thank you.
Sure, great question. And you look and you say, is it an accident that North Kitsap turns out successful athletic programs all the time? No, they have great coaches. They know what they're doing. Is it an accident that North Kitsap turns out curricular activities, programs that are all, no, they have great advisors. And is it an accident that the student scores come out good year after year after year? No, it's not, because the teachers and staff members have created an environment, didn't happen accident, they created an environment of success. And that's why I come and talk to Mr. Prince's classes all the time. Maybe we can create an atmosphere of success, or maybe a little better one with you also. So again, thank you for the opportunity to talk today.
Sorry, Mr. Prince, I was wondering for not that it's not beneficial for adults, but also for the students that are here today, if you just in a couple minutes could talk about credit card use and getting into debt. I know that they're about to be, if they aren't already, independent financial users of credit cards, and having their own money and getting jobs, and the importance of not getting into credit card debt. I think that would just be an important topic as well.
You bet. And that's one of the things that I see regularly also. Those people that end up being able to retire or being able to live the lives exactly the way they want to live tend not to be people that end up with lots of debt. We could hope that in the fall, if this turns out to be a fall like every other fall in history, you head off to college or you head off to work and you go off to a college football game or something like that. As you walk into the stadium, what you'll notice, along with all of the stuff that you can buy that say Husky or Cougar on, there are dozens and dozens of banks there. And as you walk in there laughing, having a good time, those banks are going to want to grab you and going to want to pull you aside and issue you a credit card.
Yeah.
Because it is really easy to spend money with a credit card.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is eventually you have to actually pay for that credit card as well. And they get you into a situation where it's so expensive to pay off your debt that you may never be able to pay off that debt. So rather than giving all your money to the banks, I would suggest that you come in and see me, and you can actually buy stock in the bank to get rich from credit cards to all the high school kids just out of high school. It is very, very important to monitor your spending.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so thank you for that great question.
Sure. Yeah. I see these names of the students on the screen, and some of them, salut, I have or I've had before. And I think about debtor's prison, and I think about being in chains to debt. And I don't want that for any of the students. And, you know, there's good debt and bad debt. And you've brought up so many wonderful points today. And, you know, as a 40-year-old, I want financial freedom for my students. And I look back at life choices that I made, and I just think, wow, I want them to be able to take your advice and, you know, learn from their own mistakes. But I think living within your means is something that is, it takes discipline and hard work, but it's freedom. And more freedom is more power. And certainly when we talk about being financially free as you get older, it's a beautiful thing.
And what you're saying right there, a long time ago, I'm a guy who has a couple of favorite quotes. A long time ago, I learned this phrase that says, success leaves clues.
Mm.
People don't haphazardly get to success. In my world, they think that people got lucky and they bought Bitcoin or Microsoft or something, or marijuana stocks, and it went to the moon. I'll tell you that the number of people that I have that are successful investors that got lucky, maybe one or two. But if you look and say success leaves clues, when you go over to those people's houses that lead rich lives, I bet they're not going to tell you first thing we did was max out our credit cards.
Right.
They will tell you, as you just said, keep your spending under control. Don't tie your life up in a credit card. Very well said. Please remember that quote, success leaves clues. Hang around with successful people. Weibel knows how to coach teams. It's no accident that they continually do really well.
Well, thanks so much for your time today.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
And I hope we get to see all of you in the future here as you're wandering through the world. And I'll check in with Mr. Prince to see who is there.
All right. Last thing from me, do we have any questions out there from anybody else before we turn her off today? All right.
Oh,
Sorry, Aaron.
like that you made the comparison or you used the Forrest Gump quote, you know, with the chocolates, and then you made the other comparison with the clay.
Yes.
So I was just wondering, is the chocolate comparison not one to live by and the clay is better, or I was just trying to figure that out.
Thank you for the question. And that means that I could have done a better job of explaining what I was saying. When Forrest Gump says, life is like a box of chocolates, you never know what you're going to get. What that tells me is I wake up every morning and I just sort of go out into the world and I wait for the world to do something to me. I don't know what it's going to do to me today, but I have to kind of wait and take whatever happens to me. I don't like that analogy at all. I truly, truly believe, a quick story here. I truly believe that humans are lumps of clay and that you have the choice. Aaron, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Aaron, that you have a choice. If you don't like who you were yesterday, then wake up tomorrow and fix it. Be a different person. Be a better student. Be a better sibling to your baby brother. be a whatever it is, you have the choice to change yourself dramatically. And Aaron, I bet if you think back to your 4 years in high school, think of the changes that's happened to some of your friends. Some of them zoomed off this way, some of them took off a different way, some got jobs, some their schoolwork fell apart, others their schoolwork improved like crazy. So people have the choice to change things all the time. And my little slideshow with the lump of clay, and I said, you make something really nice and then someone comes around and smashes it. When I was a teacher, I taught health classes at Bainbridge High School also. I used to do this experiment, and I would put 4 balls of clay on 4 different student desks. And I'd say in front of the whole class, I'd say, okay, make something really good. And then one person I would go, and so I'd give them time to fix it. And then after a little while, I'd go over and I'd say, oh, that's awful. And I'd smash it and say, start again. And they'd look at me. Of course, the class looked at me like I was a horrible person. But they'd look up, and if they had courage, then they'd start to make something again. I'd go back to that same person again 3 minutes later, and I'd say, I don't like this, it's awful, and I'd smash it again. And of course, the class thought I was, and at doing that 2 or 3 times, I can't tell you how many times students rolled their clay up into a little circle and called it either a snake or a pile of dog poop, because they got tired of getting smashed. And that's, I didn't invent this analogy. I watched it happen in the classroom over and over again. And Aaron, this Corona thing got you too. It got all of us. The question is, what are you going to do with it? So great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other last questions out there before we turn everybody loose?
Hi, Mr. Prince. I'm just
Mary.
wondering,
Oh, hi, Mary.
both Mr. Princes. I'm just wondering, for students who will be graduating from a 4-year college,
Is Mary there more to the question? Oh, we lost Mary.
I think she went on mute.
in the chat.
Oh yeah, it might be her Wi-Fi.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Could you enable the chat, Jared?
Yeah.
Help her.
Everyone publicly. Okay. Did that work?
Mary, are you there?
can type it now, Mary.
I think just kind of the little I got of where she was going with that, like, what are stuff that college students can do right out of the get-go, unless Mary's question comes up. Some of us heading into college with, the incredible price tag that it is, what are some stuff that our college students can do right out of the gates here to be ahead?
Probably the most important thing that you can do to be ahead when you head off to college, the first day you're in the classroom, that's every day an opportunity, and it's also your first opportunity to move one step ahead of anybody else in the classroom. And that first day when everybody's nervous and afraid, and you come out with a question or you do something to distinguish yourself just a little bit more involved than somebody else. Or at work, if you look around and say, well, gee, if I do this one little thing over here, everybody else is trying to do as little as possible and still get paid. It's that extra step that gets noticed. And anything you can do to move yourself ahead one step is a good thing. Unfortunately, college is very expensive. If I were in charge of the world, I would change that completely. College is expensive. If you're able to save a little bit extra money, that's a good thing. But if you can make some connections in college that will lead you to a better career opportunity, a better job opportunity, a chance to do a mentorship program with somebody, those are the things. Yeah. Thanks for the question. I'm sure. Oh, recommended first steps for debt. Mary, that's a really, really tough one. The interest rates that they charge for student loans are higher than everything else. You can buy jet skis and snowmobiles at 0% financing. You can buy cars at 0%. You can buy houses at 3%. Most of the college loans are 6 or 7%. So I guess I go this way. Number one, your first job is to get everything you can out of college and leave a little bit of yourself with that college also. Show them who you are, as well as collecting any information that they can provide to you. That'll ensure that you get a better job. Once you get out of that, you get yourself a good job, a good career, and you can begin to pay that thing off. But unfortunately, there just aren't any great choices for student loan debt.
Would you just say, you know, your first job right out of college, you make a plan for a percentage of every paycheck right out of college, you're chipping away at that just right away?
Yep. Or for instance, today, there are probably ways today that, especially if your parents can get involved in being able to refinance that debt from 7% to 3.25 or 3. So paying less interest on it. Again, Mary, what you could do when that happens is get in touch with some sort of a financial professional. They probably won't charge you anything to sit down and say, what's my best course moving forward? But yeah, right out of college. First of all, before you go to college, make sure you get good teachers on your side in college. You get good friends on your side. The minute you get out of college and you get a job, get the best people, your best coworkers on your side, and then begin to collect some good people around you. A good doctor, a good dentist, a good financial advisor, a good real estate person, maybe a good lender, somebody that knows how to do mortgages. But begin to put your team together. This is Mary's team that will go with her, walk through her life for the next 20 or 30 years and help you make better decisions. Thanks, guys.
All right. Hey, we're going to stop it right there. Thank you so much. Mr. Prince, I guess. Tim Prince?
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us today. A lot of really good stuff. Thanks everybody for tuning in and coming to check us out. Tomorrow we have Kathy Brorson from Kitsap Credit Union. Has a really cool program to help teach you guys some ins and outs of just money basics, loans, some of that stuff, get down to the nitty gritty to help you out there. Okay. So that's coming up tomorrow. Once again, thanks all for coming. It was a great time.
Thank you so
all.
much.
See ya. Thank you. My pleasure. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.